We're talking about EPD basics, and I think the first thing to do is to really understand what an EPD is, and we get that by knowing that EPD stands for expected progeny difference. So what an EPD is a comparison tool when you're making selection decisions, breeding, culling, any type of selection decisions you can use an EPD for, but you have to be comparing two animals. To me, one of the most common misconceptions is that an EPD ties directly to a specific weaning weight or yearling weight or whatever trait you're looking at. Somebody may ask that's one of the biggest questions I get is, well, I've got a -1 birth weight EPD. What kind of birth weight can I expect out of my cows? We can't do that. We can't expect that to correlate to a 65-pound birth weight. What we have to do is compare it to breed average. So breed average is about a 0.5. So we'd expect them to be about 1.5 pounds lighter on average. His progeny would be about 1.5 pounds lighter on average. So now if your average birth weight is 78 pounds, you'd expect his to be 76.5 pounds on average. Weaning weight the same way, you can compare two bulls. If we're looking at a bull with a 20 weaning weight and a bull with a 30 weaning weight, we expect on average that bull who has a 30 weaning weight, his calves to wean off 10 pounds heavier. So he's going to have some that are lighter than the one with a 20 pound. He's going to have some, and the one with 20 pound he's going to be on average lighter than so with an EPD, we try to take out the environmental factor. Just Clay, you're going to wean off a different size animal than Cullen is, just be based on environment. You could have the exact same genetics. So that's why EPDs are really helpful in making those selection decisions. We can compare across the entire breed. So I know one question is about $T and $M. $T and $M are our two indexes that we have. One is our maternal index and one is our terminal index. The maternal index, that's going to be a tool to use if you're retaining females into your herd. And it's basically trying to calculate pounds of calf weaned per cow exposed and get you the most value for that. So trying to get you an efficient cow that's going to wean a large calf. So birth weight goes in there. We want a lower birth weight. We want a higher weaning weight. We push down or moderate that yearling weight as much as we can because that ties to mature cow weight. We want and higher scrotal circumference because that's our measure of fertility that's included in $M. Milk is also included in $M because that's the maternal component of weaning weight. And what those two indexes do and what $M does is it allows you to pick what we would assume to be more productive females, and it keeps you away from single trait selection. That's the biggest thing with any index is it helps you avoid single trait selection. If you single trait select, you'll inadvertently hurt another trait. So, if you're sitting there selecting strictly for a low birth weight, you're going to hurt your weaning weights and your yearling weights more likely than not because all growth traits are correlated. They're all tied together. $T, that's our index that's going to be used if you're going to retain cattle through the feed yard. And it's going to tie in growth traits, weaning weight, yearling weight, and then your carcass traits of ribeye area, IMF, and fat. And balance those for yield grade as well as quality grade. So if you're looking to keep animals through the feed yard, $T. If you're looking to make replacement females, $M. If you want to go more in depth on that, I've got several articles that I've written about it, but that's the basic gist of $T and $M. We got another question that asks about if we're looking to add more EPDs, or do we feel like the current information is where we need to be? We are looking to add more EPDs as the industry advances. We continue to advance. We've got things like efficiency. More and more people are doing feed efficiency tests with their cattle, so we're looking at some efficiency EPDs, looking at a mature cow weight EPD. We just added stayability and age at first calf. Those are two new EPDs we have. So I don't want to overwhelm people, but we are adding as the industry advances and as we have more tools available to us. So any other questions, comments?
Now that you've announced you're going to be going to doing a quarterly EPD run rather than a twice per year, how long does it take? I know the cutoff dates for the first was like April 15th. How long does it take for those EPD numbers to hit the screen?
So April 15th, that'll be when we get all the data in. Then we'll run it, and I can't give you an exact time because we're moving to quarterly. So it'll be a month or so probably, but we're moving to quarterly, so it'll take a little bit of time to get used to. But it'll be announced when the new ones come out. And the thing with quarterly evaluations is it's a great problem to have. We've got more and more data constantly coming in. So it keeps us as up to date, or keeps us more up to date than running them twice a year. So those EPDs are more up to date throughout the year for breeding decisions and everything like that.
And I understand from reading that in the Angus, since they've been doing it for so long, they could update just about every night. But doesn't that have an impact on the quality of the cattle in the sense that you could buy a great EPD animal today, and in 2 days from now, he could be pushed out by others that have jumped over him in the last 2 days?
So what you'll see, and especially with this quarterly EPD, what you really see in like where we are now, if you've got a bull and he's sitting way up here and all of a sudden a bunch of bad data gets recorded on him, in the next evaluation, he's going to be way down here. I mean, he's just going to drop off. With quarterly runs, and the more frequent you do the runs, the more you see that change be gradual. So if you bought something that was good EPD in the Angus breed today, tomorrow he'll still be good. He may drop off throughout, but he won't just take a nosedive.
Okay.
And that'll be the thing we see here is you won't see a bunch of big swings in cattle's EPDs.
Lance, on figuring the EPDs in the old system, we used to have the age of dam factor that was in there. How does the age of dam factor into your weaning weights now?
So the age of dam, it's the same calculation. The age of dam factors into adjusting that weaning weight or that yearling weight. And then that adjusted weaning weight or yearling weight is calculated within that contemporary group. Or that's how it's always been done. So it's the same calculation, age of dam, that goes into adjustment factors. The thing is, BBU has been, since I've been here, on a nonlinear adjustment factor. So, if you go in and you can, there's programs online where you could type in a 205 day weight, the age of your dam and everything, and it gives you an adjustment factor. Well, we're on a nonlinear one. Like I said, have been since I've been here. It's more accurate. So it's not going to match what you can just type in on when you search adjusted 205 day weight calculator.
Right, that's what I've seen. So evidently you're using some algorithm or something to figure.
Yeah. Yes, it's a nonlinear adjustment on everything.
Okay, thanks.
Lance, I saw in the sale they had in Renham, Magic Sale or The other one, there was an animal in there that had a negative $M. How do you get that?
And so those indexes are those weighted averages. And so it's just that weighted average of the birth weight, the weaning weight, the yearling weight, milk, and scrotal circumference came out to a negative number.
So if you're trying to enhance your $M, you're obviously not going to pick her.
No, that wouldn't be the one to pick.
Okay. The on the animal mating portion of the BBU site,
Yes.
where you put in the dam and the sire, and it gives you the expected approximate EPDs, I guess. It doesn't appear to have a $M or $T in there. Is that going to be added at some point?
It's something that we've talked to the programmer about, and I haven't been able to get an answer on that.
Okay. So if you're trying to enhance your $M or $T, you have to go back and basically look at the formula, determine what goes into those two numbers, and pick your animal accordingly based on those numbers, I presume.
Yeah, or what, I mean, you know what goes into it. So if you're increasing the things that increase $T and $M,
Right.
then you'll be increasing. So, and all that mating predictor tool does is give you a parent average between the
Right.
two animals. There's nothing flashy or fancy about it. It's just averaging the animals you put in there and putting it in.
Divide by 2. Yeah. I wondered about that because I could get the same numbers with my calculator or third grade math. When you're putting animals in and you give them a P code, calves, and then it asks you things like management codes, whether they were on creep feed or not. I presume that number's factored in to the EPDs, and can an individual that's trying to pull up information on a particular bull or heifer, can they have access to that information?
So what that management code really does is it doesn't give us any adjustment. It doesn't adjust up or down based on anything. What it does is it breaks them into a contemporary group. So if you're creep feeding, it's going to break. Say you got 2 sets of calves and you creep feed one and you don't the other. The ones that are creep fed will get broke into their own group, and the ones that aren't will go into another group based on that management code. Now, let me look and see. I haven't really paid attention on the breeder side on performance. No, it doesn't give you it doesn't show what those management codes are on somebody else's. You can go in and see your own management codes, but somebody else's will just be broke down.
But in that example, the ones that are creep fed versus the ones that aren't, that's only within one particular breeder's contemporary groups. It doesn't put other contemporary groups that are creep fed versus non.
No, so those contemporary groups, that is your cow.
Okay.
The contemporary groups that go into calculating EPDs, that's going to be one breeder.
Okay. I went through and did a plot graph using the sales in this past weekend, the 2 different sales, and basically plotted the animal, the sale price, and their $T, $M. And I could see from someone that fails statistics that you can kind of see an increase in the sales price associated with something as simple as a T, $M. Now, obviously, there's always some differences there, either based on the particular breeder or the particular pedigree that one may have wanted, or just the appearance of the animal. But without, in talking about trying to see if there's an increase or a statistical difference between animals where you've gathered information on them or not, it looks like there may be something you can see through the T, $M numbers.
There is, there's a definite, and the other thing you can look at is the trend chart for our EPDs across the breed.
Right.
Everything's trending up, which shows that more and more people are selecting on those traits. And I kind of like the trend that we have. It's a gradual trend up. You don't really see one trait shoot up and other traits stay level or anything like that. So it's a gradual trend up across the board, which is really nice to see, which means that we're not single trait selecting.
Typically, for what I've seen, it looks like if you have an increase in $T, you typically have maybe not the same corresponding, but an increase in $M as well. Is that seem to be the case?
A lot of times, $T and $M do correlate because weaning weight and plays a factor in both of them.
Okay.
One thing we're seeing at our sales more and more is the buyers are definitely using performance information, and scan data seems to be one that people are latching on to, and so since we've started using or having scan data as part of one of our criteria for our sales, it's also enhanced that. So more and more people are buying based on numbers, and then just of course it's got to be they've got to be a good looking animal, and
Sure.
they've got to have all the phenotype stuff has got to be there. But if they're a good looking animal and you've got two of them, one of them has good scan data and the other one doesn't have any scan data at all, I know which one I got to buy typically.
And that's, I mean, we're seeing that across the breed. You know, people are paying more and more attention to all the data. Commercial guys are paying attention to data at bull sales. So it's something to pay attention to. A lot of commercial producers, just from personal experience, one of the things they do look at really heavily is birth weight, because they don't want to be pulling a bunch of calves. So that's something to pay attention to. But like I said, we can't single trait select on any one trait.
When you say birth weight, you talking about the actual birth weight of that sire, or his EPD birth weight?
The EPD, the birth weight EPD.
Okay.
It's even more than that, because I sell quite a few bulls here off the ranch, and you go back 10 years ago, they weren't asking much about birth weight, but now they're wanting to know your birth weights, and then more questions around how quickly the calves get up in nurse. There's several things that they're asking, so they're looking for that calf to hit the ground running, but be small, and so I've been so now when I sell bulls, and most of them are going to commercial breeders, they're interested in that birth weight and how that calf performs the first 24 hours.
It seemed like that would be more important, since they're trying to move the calving date or the calving age of that heifer down. So the more they move it down, the smaller that calf's going to necessarily have to be, unless they're trying.
Absolutely.
That's a number that calving date. That's just a number that I guess is industry required, because from an outside looking in, from a purebred side, it doesn't seem like you would be doing the right thing by trying to get them younger and younger to calve on a purebred side. Because the old adage is that the first calf is throwaway anyway in many cases, and so it seems like you might have a better advantage to let that cow get closer to 2 years old.
Well, so the industry standard is 2 years old. They don't want them calving before 2. They don't want them calving before 2 years old, or at least not much more. And so they're really looking at calving at 2, because calving at 2 makes sense economically. I mean, if you look at studies,
Cows pay back by then.
5 to 6 years of age, that's when she's truly breaking even. The old adage of the first calf being a throwaway isn't necessarily true. I think when you use genetic selection tools like EPDs, to me, that should be your best calf, because using those genetic selection tools, we should be advancing our genetics quicker and quicker, and every calf crop should be better than the last. So that first calf genetically should be better than last year's calf crop.
Yes, and especially for those first calf heifers, that's a marker as far as I'm concerned as to how she's going to do moving forward. Because if she's got a throwaway calf to begin with, then she's not going to make the grade for my herd. She's got to produce really an outstanding calf as a first calf heifer. The calf's got to get up and start nursing, and she's got to milk. So if she does all those things, because I sell bulls, if she does all those things, then she gets to hang around. Otherwise, she goes on down the road.
Clay, any thoughts on calving and first calf heifers and everything?
I just turned them out in the brush, hopefully they bring calf in.
Any thoughts on, from the commercial side of y'all's operation, kind of what you look for number wise?
As far as birth weights or whatever, Lance?
Birth weights, weaning weights, any of that when y'all are looking?
It's on the commercial side of our deal is, like I just said, they get kicked out. If they bring a calf in, she's a keeper.
Yeah, but when you're looking at a bull.
When I'm looking at a bull?
Yeah.
On the commercial side or purebred to buy?
Either or both.
Well, on like a purebred bull or a purebred bull for commercial breeding or whatever, of course, we look at all the numbers on him. And then, at the end of the day, phenotypically, he's still got to be good,
Yeah.
Because you take an ugly bull with good numbers, nobody's going to buy ugly calves. It's got to be balanced and everything else. So that's about it on our deal. As far as our heifers are concerned, on a purebred side, I'll calve them out in a trap and stuff. Really not interested in weaning weights, more interested in calving score. She has a calf, well, then everything's pretty good, And as far as a throwaway calf, I don't believe in a throwaway calf. That heifer's got to raise something decent to begin with. If there was a throwaway, go ahead.
No, you brought up a good point. One thing I didn't mention was a calving ease score. So I know there's a lot of guys that can't get out and get a birth weight on everything. If you can get a calving ease score, that's simple, and that really helps out. And that's more what I'm worried about than a birth weight.
Because birth weight is the guy holding the pencil. You know what I mean? He can put down whatever he wants.
Yeah, but the Cavanese is the calf hitting the ground, jumping up and nursing, and then walking off with the mama.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's a Cavanese, and whether or not it weighed 10 pounds more or less, she did her job.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I agree with that more than anything.
You got any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Anybody?
I appreciate that. This is real good for small guys like myself.
Yeah, Lance, this gives us an opportunity to talk amongst breeders as well. I like this format.
Yes.
And you hear what's really going on out there, because as I've said, we've got criteria for our program, and the females have to hit a certain one. And phenotypically, like Clay was saying, nobody's going to buy an ugly cow, and but they've still got to have numbers. So they've got to work, and they do have to look good. So I like this format.
That's the thing. I'll probably think I just like EPDs and sit here and calculate things, but I do like EPDs, but I like a pretty cow. I think you've got to have both. They're all tools that go into selection criteria. I'll tell you from personal experience when selecting bulls for my personal cattle that my dad and I run, we look at EPDs, or I look at EPDs and kind of make a list, and then he and I will go sit down and look at those bulls, and if they're ugly and don't meet some other criteria phenotypically, we get rid of them. So
It's kind of why valedictorians have trouble getting getting dates in high school.
So, yeah. But, so if there's no other questions, we'll have this, this been recorded, so we'll have it and it'll be available and make it available. We'll keep having some of these kind of smaller discussions to where we can have more of a discussion amongst breeders and go from there. So thank everybody for joining today and hope everybody has a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lance. See you down the road.
Yeah.